welcome to the Oregon Files podcast. First, our disclaimer. We are amateur podcasters simply for entertainment. If we misquote or offend, it was not on purpose to do so. Also, we're recording from an attic spare bedroom today, so you may hear kids, dogs, neighbors, what have you. Thank you and enjoy, and here's Ellie of Bowman.
Thank you so much, Mark. Episode 21.
21.
I was going to say it in Spanish, but I'm not there yet.
21.
Okay, very good. I also like to give a quick shout out to our good friend Josh Frazier, who is at Frazier's Barbershop. He keeps his prices low because he doesn't believe you have to choose between a haircut and a full tank of gas. You can call and make an appointment with him at 541-637-0649. And Josh is a really good barber, good for stories, and good place to go if you want to get a good haircut. So again, it's our good friend Josh at Frazier's Barbershop at 541-637-0649.
Very nice. We also want to do our thank you to Kyle Kipperman, who owns Video Games Plus and Level Up Frozen Yogurt. They're open 7 days a week. They're off Stevens in Roseburg, Oregon. Level Up Frozen Yogurt has new flavors every month, some dairy-free, and over 50 toppings, including fresh fruit. They also have a really nice, expansive collection of DVDs, Blu-rays, disc golf, all kinds of cool gifts. Really great place to go, especially in the summer with the self-serve yogurt. Great selection of flavors.
Delicious. Delicioso.
Delicioso. All right. So, El, today we have a really interesting podcast that's been asked about. We want to cover some of our unsolved mysteries of Oregon.
Yeah. I think you ever do like word association games? Like people say like couch, you think of the first word that comes to your mind, or like anything like ocean, or when I think like the Oregon Files podcast, I think of like mystery or like unsolved cases, or like, things more than just like, what's your favorite, sandwich, or, we do love dad jokes, but I feel like, the Oregon Files, when I think of that, I think of more what we're going to talk about today is, the unsolved mysteries and just, the murders and,
yes. Yeah, podcasts have really taken off with a lot of the people wanting to hear true crime.
True crime, that's what I was trying to think of,
And that was our first podcast, was a true crime story that we covered.
Right.
The underwear murders. Wild. What's been funny about trying to do a lot of these true crime stuff, especially I'm going to cover two more recent things that are unsolved, but it's being sensitive to maybe these are still ongoing cases or still people alive that this is affecting.
Right.
And to do that that's why we try to be a podcast for entertainment, but these are interesting stories.
Right. The stories we're talking about today, even though some of the research might be a few years old, if there's new information that we are not aware about, I mean, we obviously, apologize, if that's something that we're not, informative of. So
yeah, no, definitely don't want to offend. Just want to get the stories out.
Right.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Hopefully in an entertaining way.
Yep. Well, the first one I want to cover is really a big one in Roseburg, Douglas County. Stephanie Condon. She still got, I don't know if we still have the billboards up.
I think they took it down, yeah.
Thankfully, KMTR put this little timeline together, and I kind of added to it as I went through it. We'll start with where really what started. It was October 30th, 1998. Stephanie Condon disappeared while babysitting at her cousin's home in Tri-City at the age of 14. Her cousin, who was Cheryl Richley, she returned home at about 1:30 a.m., finding her twins asleep and her cousin Stephanie gone. Stephanie, the 14-year-old honors student, was babysitting Richley's twins at the home south of Myrtle Creek when she vanished wearing only a t-shirt and pajama bottoms. Her shoes, backpack, and purse were found at the house. Now, right there, I'm telling you, if you're missing or you left and you don't have your shoes on, like I even think if my house caught fire, I probably would still put on my shoes or slippers before I left the house,
Right.
So
Red flags.
That's a big one for me. Like if you're not wearing shoes and you disappeared, like man, somebody got the drop on you. Investigators initially focused in on a Dale Wayne Hill, a man who stopped by the trailer the night Stephanie disappeared. A month after Condon vanished, Hill was arrested and charged with burglary for breaking into a Myrtle Creek home and stealing a pair of women's underwear.
Let that sink in for a minute. Because if you're going to steal anything, so you didn't steal anything, no like jewelry, home appliances. You're just like, I'm going to steal this underwear.
I'm just going to steal the underwear. Now, the other part we found out too, is as we look into this, is that Dale Wayne Hill was actually at the same bar that Cheryl Richley was at that night, and she may have turned him down. So there's some eyewitness accounts of that too. So it was weird that then all of a sudden he shows up at her trailer. So anyways,
maybe he followed her, you think? Never knew where she lived, or?
But he got there before her, obviously, if Stephanie went missing. That's the crazy part.
Hmm.
So anyways, this is 1998. She goes missing. There's, of course, searches. They did huge amount of people searching. They went all kinds of, the woods of Douglas County were vast. So she definitely disappeared. No signs, no nothing. September 2000, so 2 years after she went missing, Douglas County Major Crimes Team presented a case to the FBI. February 2003, the case was presented at a national crime facility in Great Britain. They came to Douglas County and participated in several searches.
It took 2 years for that to go to the FBI?
Yeah. This is going to come into play later on.
Yeah.
So when we're going to get to a court case that involves, some changes in this story. So yeah, that's going to play into it. You're right. We didn't get to the FBI until 2 years after she went missing. 2006. So this is now 8 years after she's missing. Sheriff Chris Brown authorized using the cold case squad in the Condon investigation. And we covered the cold case squad on another podcast. The cold case cowboys.
Giddy up.
Yep.
Man, if any of my kids went missing, I would not be able to sleep at night.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah, you're right.
I would be.
Oh yeah. I'd be in circles.
Cranking up the coffee.
Yes.
I would buy my own hound blood or
I've been going door to door
called.
checking people's ring cameras.
Right.
Like there's so many ring cameras now, so many people.
CCTV.
Yes.
Right.
I'm going to pause right here because this is a hot issue with my wife and I discuss this all the time. I think everyone when they're born should be microchipped. I know it's controversial, but here's the deal. If everyone's microchipped when they're born, they can be tracked. People getting kidnapped and going missing isn't going to be a big of a problem, right?
Yeah.
Like, and my wife's like, well, people don't want to be tracked. I'm like, then what are you doing that you don't want to be tracked?
Yeah.
Maybe you shouldn't be doing that thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd be totally down for microchipping kids. And myself, I'd be the first one. Microchip me. I'm gonna be very boring. If you did a history meter, you're gonna say, this guy leaves his house and goes to the pizza place back and forth a lot.
A lot of Henry donuts.
There's a lot of this guy just goes to the donut shop and Domino's a lot. This guy's pretty boring.
A lot of magic card buying.
Yeah. All right.
Not me. I like my freedom.
See,
You're not microchipping me.
See? No. So my wife made a good point, though, is that if you did microchip people, then there'd be criminals that find a way to either A, manipulate the data, what the microchip's saying, or track you, like, oh, this guy's going to his bank right now. I could follow him in. So I could see that argument, but I don't know, man. Too many kids get kidnapped and go missing. I don't like it. The people have that audacity to kidnap and kill someone is nuts to me. September 2007, several billboards were donated featuring Stephanie Condon. So now we're into March 2009. So this is 11 years after she went missing.
Mm-hmm.
Her remains are found by a man who was walking his dogs on a logging road near the town of Glide, so 30 miles northeast of Riddle. A guy named Joseph Mellon of Glide told authorities he found a human skull when he stopped to rest his dogs at the base of a tree on forested land. Now, the catch, though, is this land was on the same property of the parents of Dale Wayne Hill. Now, ironically, the same day that they found these bones, Dale Wayne Hill was actually taken into custody in Nevada on an unrelated charge. So what are the odds of the exact same day that, March 25th, 2009, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office confirmed that human remains found in a remote area near Glide are that of Stephanie Condon. The identification was announced in a news conference hosted by Douglas County Sheriff's Office. The next day, a person of interest in the Condon case, Dale Wayne Hill, is taken into custody in Reno for failing to register as a felon, charges unrelated to Condon's case.
Hey, could you imagine the reaction of being a parent and waiting 11 years to find out what happened to your kid's missing body, and then it's literally it's in the neighbor's yard the whole time?
So wasn't that wild? Yeah. To be, at least it was in the county, right? I mean, but then I got to ask, is it the closure of finding known that she passed away? Or would it be easier to maybe never find the remains in the hope that she's still alive out there somewhere? I would go back and forth.
I would probably think finding the remains, because I think
after the closure.
Because I think after a while you pretty much know she's not coming back. I would probably think it's pretty minimum that she'd still be alive.
Exactly right, because
that's just me, but.
And she was old enough. She was 14, obviously, to be a babysitter. So if she was alive, you think she would,
reach out,
try to, assuming circumstances are okay,
Right. After 11 years, she would be an adult, and who knows? But sad either way.
March 26, 2009, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office announces that Dale Hill is currently their only suspect in the Condon case. Meantime, Hill pleads guilty in Lyon County, southeast of Reno, for failing to register as a felon in Nevada, and he's only sentenced to 30 days in jail. March of 2011, they finally begin the trial for the kidnapping murder in the Douglas County courtroom. The defense attorney, Daniel Koenig, said a lack of physical evidence proved Hill was innocent. He accused detectives of conspiring against Hill and ignoring other suspects. Koenig said Hill had no motive to kill Condon and instead cooperated with detectives. The defense blamed Condon's disappearance on a man who often visited the home from which she went missing and with whom Condon left willingly. Once again, though, if she left willingly, we're talking, remember, no purse, no shoes.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard for me to believe she left willingly like that. But
well, and I find a lot of the things I've seen I don't feel like a lot of times there is a motive for killing people. I feel like they're just mentally not right in the head and something makes them want to kill another human being. I don't really feel like a motive's always, clear and present.
A crime in the heat of passion or something like that.
Yeah.
Defense attorneys called dozens of forensic scientists from the FBI who testified no fiber or DNA evidence was found that linked Hill and Condon, despite at least 54 laboratory tests. Koenig accused 2 detectives of fabricating statements attributed to Hill. He also criticized the Douglas County Sheriff's Office for not collecting potential evidence or stealing off the home from which Condon disappeared. No physical evidence implicated Hill. The district attorney argued that Hill's suicide attempt shortly after the girl's disappearance, shifting statements about his whereabouts and the location of the girl's remains, added up to proof of guilt. That was all they had to go on. So guess what? April 1st, 2011, after less than a day, the jury returned a verdict in not guilty on all counts, and Hill was set free. And April 6, 2011, so 5 days later, Marty Condon, so her dad, and his wife Christine spoke exclusively with KPSC Studios. He goes, I want to be perfectly clear. I do not want anything to happen to Hill. Absolutely do not. I don't want people to build their frustrations. I don't want nothing to happen. I want him to live with this for the rest of his life. I want to help him. I want to help him have a miserable life. They thought it was him 100%.
Absolutely. Do you think they probably thought the whole time it was him?
I don't know. It's hard because, if there's changing stories, if there's, he's at the scene of the crime, he's arrested a month later for stealing panties, there's a suicide attempt, there's, obviously some criminal background. I don't know. I didn't know anything about the other guy that apparently they said frequented the house often that she left with willingly. That's interesting to me. Like, who made that comment that she left willingly?
At 14?
Yeah, 14. Yeah. At, maybe like around midnight. I don't know.
I'm pulling a time to kill. I'm waiting in a closet. I'm coming out with a rifle. I'm taking care of Hill.
It's just so odd that he would be the primary suspect and then the body is found on his parents' property. I'm like,
it feels pretty case closed.
Because if it's not the case, then what are the odds that someone else did this
and put it in the
and the odds to find it on his parents' property to bury that? Like, that would be the craziest twist ever. That the guy just, of how big Douglas County is,
framed him. Somebody that didn't like Dale Hill.
Yeah, and was going to frame him. Like, that's how you do it. I don't know.
Or the person that he stole the panties from, that was their favorite pair of panties. They did not like that.
They framed him.
And they framed him.
Oh, man. They really wanted those panties.
True crime of passion.
So the other part that was hard with the court case, though, was this is stuff Marty says. We can't say Hill was convicted of robbery in 1998, but more specifically, we couldn't say that he stole women's panties and lingerie because there's a lot of rules for victims. There's lots of things we couldn't say. There's a lot of things we couldn't do. And a lot of that had to do with his rights. He goes, he killed our daughter, no doubt in our minds. Sadly, February 2012, Marty Condon committed suicide by gunshot to the head. And to this day, we don't know who her murderer was. So that was it's probably one of our bigger unsolved mysteries in Douglas County in the last 30 years.
Biggest solved, unsolved.
Unsolved, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a hard one for me. It's a hard one. I understand not linking direct evidence. I get that. But I'm sorry, on the parents' property, that's a hard one to overlook.
Man, the guilt that dad must have felt, and oh man, that's just the worst thing in the world. To almost get that close to justice and having faith in the justice system.
Yep.
And feeling pretty confident that, okay, this is our guy, and then him being able to walk free.
Yeah.
Man. it's just, I don't know if that's worse than losing the kid, you know. Yeah, that's hard to put into words. To really gut wrenching that must have felt.
I looked into the guy who found the body, and it's hard because I couldn't guarantee if it was the same guy I was looking up on Facebook. It's very interesting to try and piece it all together, and connections, that kind of stuff. I've heard rumors in the past in town, like, you know, the person who found it was, you know, it wasn't completely accidental. Like he was, really? he may have overheard something at a place that he worked at that led him to that area. So there's always going to be those rumors that Douglas County is going to have with this. And that's the hard part. They're rumors, you know? So that's what you never want. That's why I'm being very careful about, you know, saying too much more, because everything I've heard is hearsay. You know, well, you know, this is what happened, but you don't know that. I mean, that's just it. I mean, so it's a hard one. I feel like maybe her cousin, if she went to a bar and she came back at 1:30, I'd like to hear more of her side of the story. Like, you know, if she'd run in with anybody else at the bar, or if there's anyone else around her house that was being weird. But if she lives in a trailer park too, though, isn't there a lot of like other close by trailers? Like,
you would think,
you know, I mean, back in 1998, so not everyone had, I think, as many cameras as they do today.
Yeah. I can't imagine that there were
that's hard.
Many besides like banks and grocery stores, and then also the going from, you know, the 11-year, you know, the game of telephone starts happening, you know, people hear different versions of stories, or people know somebody that think they know, you know, what happened. And I'm sure that didn't help either. Yeah.
And it's hard to find out that maybe the police didn't seal off the crime scene, or didn't maybe do as thorough job as they could have when it first went down. And I wonder if it's because it was a home. They had 2 little kids living there already. So they couldn't really like say he can't live here until we find out what happened to her. But
or maybe just not used to processing that type of crime in our area. We don't typically have a lot of homicides and missing kids, and you know,
it's hard.
It's not a high crime rate area, so I mean, maybe they
didn't know what to do initially. Yeah, I mean,
could have been
overlooked something real simple. That's why it took 2 years to get the FBI involved. I mean, it's hard. And then you have Britain come and help, and Britain, it's funny because they had Britain come help, and they couldn't find it. And this was on TV. It was on several programs. So there's a lot of attention to this. Then all of a sudden, some guy just walking his dogs finds the skeletal remains. Like, you think that maybe if a guy was a suspect, they would have gone to his parents' property to live nearby and maybe done a little poking around. I don't know. I mean, it's hindsight's 2022, right? They may have gone there and walked right over it. So who knows?
Right. The billboard sticks out to me the most.
Oh, yes. I remember the billboards very much.
You know, I know your similar story to where we're not originally from Oregon. The billboard is one of the first things I just vividly remember. Yeah. And not knowing anything about Stephanie Condon, but just seeing that billboard, you know, have you seen, you know, Stephanie Condon, please call, you know, whatever the local authority number was. But, you know, that's always been like the first mystery, that I recall.
Yeah. Well, this is one of those podcasts. I mean, this one's still kind of fresh a little bit. So if, you know, Dale Wayne Hill's listening and he wants to come tell his side of the story, or I've heard people go to prison for less evidence, you know, and
it's interesting, and it's also touchy, I guess is the word, or sensitive is what I'm looking for too. I mean, it's not an easy thing to talk about. It's not an easy thing to remember and discuss, especially in a community like ours where it's pretty close knit. So there's somebody that knows Stephanie's family. There's somebody that probably knew Stephanie. There's, you know, it's still fresh in a lot of people's minds. I mean, it's not from the, 100 years ago. Yeah. So, I mean, if folks do listen to this and they do feel uncomfortable, then, happy to reach out and, talk about, what do you guys want to talk about? Or,
Oregon Files podcast at yahoo.com. Hit us up.
Anyway, thank you, Mark.
No problem.
For
What's next?
telling that important story and keeping that alive. Our next is a couple things. The first is I found on National Geographic. I don't know about you, but I love National Geographic. I even love going to the library. They have like National Geographics from like way back when.
Yes.
Okay, and you have to like blow the dust off and like and just like page through it. The one a little off subject, but I don't know why I love like reading advertisements from like 50s and like 60s or whatever. It's so interesting to me, the things that were sold and the price that were sold.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. It's just fascinating to me. Like, and then even just like advertising cigarettes back then, like, Virginia Slims,
Yep.
they'll help your hair grow or whatever it is. It's just funny to me. So anyway, this one's the National Geographic, and it is the oldest known murder.
Ooh.
It was 430,000 years ago. The first known murder was as brutal as any other. The attacker smashed the victim twice in the head, leaving matching holes above the victim's eyebrows. Ugh. The dead body was then dropped down a 43-foot shaft into a cave where it lay for nearly 500,000 years.
What?
Talk about a real cold case, right?
Yeah.
Paleontologists pieced together the 430,000-year-old skull and reported their forensic analysis in a journal. Injuries to the skull represent the oldest direct evidence of the homicide, but scientists can describe this victim as a young adult, but the age and even gender are unknown. So it actually was found in Spain, among other bones, I guess they found, and they were able to kind of determine the cause of the murder.
Oldest known murder mystery. That's crazy. Actually.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
This one is not so old. This one is from 1997, and I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
So these folks are Craig Pritchett and Nova Guthrie.
I love the name Nova.
Right.
It was Cherokee for butterfly.
Okay.
And I always love that little nugget.
Right. They also had aliases of Nova Hicks, Nova Thomas, and Alex Santini, wanted for armed robbery, and they've been missing since the year 2000. So this is a little different than like a cold case type murder. This is more like, where are these folks now?
Where are they now?
Yeah.
So wait a minute. Her name was Nova.
Yeah.
So,
like the car.
But for her alias, she kept the first name, which is the unusual part, but changed her last name.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Right? Right. They'll never figure it out.
The heat's on to me. I better change my last name.
Right.
That's the ticket.
And it's looking at the picture of these folks. They look like somebody who would just live next door. They don't look like anything what I'm about to describe.
I love it already.
1997, Craig Pritchett and Nova Guthrie have been two bank robbers on the run, a modern day Bonnie and Clyde. They robbed a total of 12 banks throughout the West, including Colorado, Arizona, Vegas. They have elaborate schemes that allow them to live. They basically like the lavish lifestyle. They kind of dreamt of that early on, to live kind of a lifestyle they've always wanted.
Oh, wow.
So Craig was 37 at the time. He was actually a former baseball star. He was a baseball star.
Wow.
Nova Guthrie was a biology major and a sorority president. So they sounded like,
so these aren't just,
folks you would want to have a picnic with.
Yeah.
I guess what happened was his baseball career fizzled out. And in 1992, he was arrested for bank robbery after a teller identified him in a photo lineup. He was convicted, and then he was sentenced to 5 years in Arizona, in a prison in Arizona. So most of the time spent in his prison was learning the better ability how to rob banks. So he went in for robbing, and then he was like, you know what? This is my life calling. I'm going to go find people in here that, may have a better system than what I've already. Obviously, I got caught, so how can I not get caught for the next one? So I'm going to.
It's weird because it almost encourages that bank robbery thing to where it's like, if you steal enough money and then hide it, then you get caught. It goes, okay, I'll do 5 years in a prison where I'm going to get fed. I can work out. I got a room to sleep in. If I'm only doing 5 years, I can come out and have $2 million waiting for me. I'm like, he just networked himself. It's literally the original LinkedIn. I love it.
He just LinkedIn his way in prison. So shortly after his release, he met Nova Guthrie, and they began dating. Soon after that, they both began their bank robbery spree, striking primarily in the Northwest. It goes on to say here, before each heist, the couple believed to have spent considerable amount of time in the area of the bank. They would survey it. They would kind of lay the land. They would study it. They would kind of get an idea of what they were going in or into. So each robbery was an armed robbery. They would do it either when the bank is about to open or close. So
Oh,
they would
yeah.
never do it during the midday, either opening or closing. They would wear a lot of disguises. They had radio contact within each other. They had a two-way radio, and they would usually have abandoned vehicles nearby for like their getaway.
I heard that that's a good time to strike is when I'm trying to close because they have so many like tasks they got to do.
Yeah.
They get distracted.
Yeah.
I worked at a pizza place, and yeah, there's times where you're minimal staff and then you're doing cleaning stuff. So your eyes aren't on everything and you're not as aware.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
We don't condone bank robbery.
We do
there.
not.
No.
But that's how you do it.
Yeah, there you go. So for 2 years, they actually continue robbing banks together. However, they didn't even know, they did not know that only Pritchard was a wanted fugitive. They visited Nova's family in Phoenix. Her brother forced Pritchard to leave.
Wow.
In March of 99, Guthrie asked for help from her sister, who told her to contact Chaplain Billy Fay in Denver. She told him that she wanted out of her life of crime. So Nova was trying to get out.
Okay.
Maybe
things got too risky.
Maybe
too
getting a
weird.
little hot, didn't want to.
Honeymoon's over.
Right. She ended up actually turning herself into the FBI.
Okay.
And she told them some things about the heists. FBI did not arrest her. They did not arrest her at the time because they had no evidence to corroborate her statements.
And obviously, they're looking for a Nova Guthrie, and she's Nova Hicks, right? She gets
And he was the only one that was wanted
wild
as a fugitive.
They never put together that she was probably involved in it.
They had insufficient probable cause to have the U.S. Attorney Office to authorize any arrest warrants. They hoped that she would be the key to getting Pritchard arrested. So they were hoping that she would be like the informant.
Yeah.
However, she ended up changing her mind and decided to go back robbing banks again.
Yes. Gosh. No,
you know what? I had a change of heart. Prison doesn't sound all that good. I'm going to go back doing what I do really good instead. I'm going to rob banks.
It almost feels like a little bit like she kind of wanted to see what they had on them.
Yeah, she was playing a little
right. She
little
says, "Yeah, I'll call the FBI. Yeah. Hey, what do you guys got on me? I'll give you some stuff. You give me some stuff." And I'm like, "Oh, we know it."
Right.
That's
she was
funny.
feeling them out, maybe. So they ended up committing their last robbery in the year 2000, and they were last seen in Nova Scotia at a professional hockey game. Authorities believe that the couple is still robbing banks and they're still wanted. They've appeared on America's Most Wanted, some documents on episodes of Masterminds.
Okay.
And there's something called the Fugitive Chronicles.
Wow.
Oh, one moment here. Update.
Yeah. Oh, update. Here we go.
Update. They actually were captured. Twist.
Really?
They were taken down by law in August of 2003. They were discovered living in Cape Town, South Africa, where Guthrie was working managing a nightclub while Pritchard spent his time on a computer buying and selling stocks.
Wow.
I mean,
that's amazing.
I mean, talk about...
so they were captured. Okay.
Yeah. They were living under the names of Andy and Dane Brown. Interesting.
Finally dropped that nobody.
Right. So South African tourists traveling in the United States, they noticed Guthrie, they noticed the wanted poster, and then they called the police. The couple ended up being extracted back to the United States. Both of them were convicted of armed robberies. Pritchard was eventually sentenced to 22 and a half years because the half matters. And Guthrie got 10 years plus having to pay $231 in restitution. Guthrie served her time and has been released.
So she's out and about.
Yep.
She'd be a great one for the podcast. Man.
Yeah, it's got out in 2013. Oh, I mean,
wow.
A lot of this goes from Unsolved.com. There's a lot of articles out here. They were on America's Most Wanted.
So they somehow got to Cape Town, South Africa. So they had to go by boat or plane, right?
Yes.
To get there. And the odds that some person from America, some Yahoo American nut goes,
right.
"Hey, I think I seen that guy on a wanted poster once." Man.
And they were just living some sort of normal, simple nightclub and selling and buying stocks.
I love that. I love that he's like,
could you think
that's amazing.
I guess it doesn't say how much money they were able to accumulate after all the bank robbers. So it's kind of funny that you're now going into something. What's more risky, stock buying and selling or robbing
or
banks.
robbing banks. Yeah,
I mean,
maybe that was more yield. I don't know.
Right? Maybe
That's
he was
hilarious.
just trying to, maybe he just likes the thrill and the risk of stuff.
You would think too that you would like. Here's the deal: if there's a wanted poster of you, like if it's got hair, you gotta dye your hair.
Right.
Maybe should go bald. If you have a beard in the wanted poster, maybe shave. Like you would do things to maybe not be recognizable.
Right.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So not as cold case-ish, unsolved, but it was unsolved at one time. So
Well, I'll tell you
it's
what.
a good one.
I'll bring us back to another unsolved,
Boom.
messed up one. This one comes. I got a lot of information. This is actually a website called allthatisinteresting.com. This is by Aaron Kelly, checked by a guy named John Kowalski. It's the story of Kyron Horman, the 7-year-old who disappeared. Was the largest manhunt in Oregon history. And this stuff's always been updated. So after being dropped off at school by his stepmother early one morning in June 2010, Kyron Horman vanished. He's never been seen or heard from again. Shortly after 8 a.m. on Friday, June 4th, he was a second grader. He arrived at Portland's Skyline Elementary School. It was the day of the science fair, and he was setting up his project with the help of his stepmother. Though a fellow student reported seeing him at 9 a.m. near the school's south entrance, Horman did not report to any classes that day, nor did he board the bus later to come home. His stepmother actually took a photo of him because he set up his science fair project, and I'm showing this to my co-host here. He was wearing a CSI shirt because he was really into.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that wild? He was really into that kind of stuff.
I guess terrible, ironic. Can we talk about science fairs for a second?
Oh, science fairs, yes.
Did you do science fairs growing up? Were you a science fair kid? Did you get into that?
I went to poor schools. We didn't have science fairs.
I didn't have science fairs.
Los Angeles County.
Not all. Hey, Doug Pichelle. He was from. These are scientists.
That was a higher end. We actually paid to go to school. Mine was a public school, so we were lucky we had a red ball to play with.
So no science fair.
No science fair.
No science fairs
how
were
about you?
cool though. Yeah, I was never creative and never smart enough to really do anything cool enough to like win science fairs. But I would every now and again I would do like baking soda in the vinegar, like the volcano.
Classic.
I think one year I did like does it float or does it sink? Because that's where my creativity level went.
And it's such a great easy one.
Right.
Yeah.
That was kind of about it. But I always remember like seeing like cow brains and like gross and weird stuff. Like people would like dissect and like, or like how many senses or like what part of your brain is like taste, smell, and touch, things like that. But anyway.
I did. There was a science fair when I was in high school. We had to do a science project for science class. I kind of procrastinated. I think I was really into a video game at the time, Final Fantasy VII, and so I just was like, all my schoolwork came to a dead halt while I focused on my video game career. That wasn't the thing. But I remember we basically picked a subject and you just got to present it, right?
Yeah.
So literally the day before, I went to the library and I'm like, no, I'm gonna do something like quick and easy, and I found out, goofing around, that basically you ask a question and answer it. And my question was like, well, shoot, what's the biggest snail? And apparently in the Amazon jungle, there's like 2 feet. There's snails that get to be like 2 feet long, almost like 1.5 feet high. So for my project, I literally just got a poster board, right? Because that was what I used for every school project. And I just did this giant snail. I colored a giant snail. I was done my project 15 minutes, right?
Hey.
Best part is I go to school the next day. Oh yeah, my question was, what's the biggest snail? I look at this. They get to be about 2 feet. My favorite part is my science teacher had a morbid fear of snails.
Oh no.
He had no idea they got that big. I unlocked things for him. He was now never like,
he was not ready.
He goes, Mark, you get an A. I didn't know this threat was out there.
Mark, you get A and I'm leaving.
Yeah. He goes, yeah, he was like, I just remember his mouth hanging open. Like the whole class was like, that's amazing. Like everyone else did really complicated science projects. I'm like, I didn't have the heart to tell him like, yeah, no, that's right. Snails. So they get 2 feet in the Amazon.
Thanks for the reminder not to go to the Amazon.
Yeah. All right. So it was Horman's stepmother, Terry Moulton, who was the last family member to see the boy alive as he walked down the school's hallway to a class that Friday morning. She failed a polygraph test on the day's events twice. Oh, and has been named a suspect by the court documents, and her own lawyers named her a suspect.
How it is?
I didn't know
How
that.
do your own lawyers?
How do you do that? Yeah, I don't think that's worded right. Hey, look, you're not passing polygraph tests. I think you know more than you know.
Look, yeah.
Perhaps the most non-biased sequence of events on Horman's last day came from a detailed timeline courtesy of the Oregonian, which actually put Moulton at 2 different grocery stores until 10:10 that morning. However, between then and 11:39, the stepmother has no alibi. She claimed she was driving rural roads with her infant daughter, Kira, trying to soothe her ear infection before checking into a 24-hour fitness about 11 miles away at 11:39 a.m., where she stayed for an hour. Then at 1:21 p.m., Moulton claimed to have arrived home, logged into Facebook, and posted photos of Horman at school with a science project from that morning. Then Kyron Horman's father, Kane, joined Moulton to meet the school bus at 3:30 p.m., but Horman did not get off. When they drove to the school and found out that Horman had been marked absent all day, they had the secretary call 911, and so began the largest missing person search in Oregon history. At the heart of the search of Kyron Horman is the relationship between his parents and stepmother. His biological parents, Kane Horman and Desiree Young, divorced when the boy was small, and the two shared custody until Desiree became severely ill with kidney problems. She was forced to move back in with her parents and gave full-time custody of Horman to Kane until she fully recovered. Kane then married Terry Moulton, with whom he had a daughter, Kira. But things apparently were not going too well in the marriage, according to the emails that Moulton sent to her friends. After police showed her these messages, Kyron's biological mother said the emails revealed that Moulton had a severe hatred for Kyron. She blamed a lot of the marital problems between Kane and herself on Kyron. It was a huge point of contention in their marriage, and she expressed in great detail her hatred for Kyron. I now believe without a shadow of a doubt that not only is she capable of hurting Kyron, it is clear that she could have hurt him in the worst possible way. So that was from the boy's biological mother.
Man, custody stuff gets messy.
Oh, it's rough.
And that's always, murder. Don't they usually look for the family members are usually like, where were you when somebody went missing? It's always like going down the list of family members that were the last to see the person going missing. But
that's a rough one.
Yeah.
That is a rough. If she was driving down country roads, like this is one of those things too, like she was trying the kid's earache. That's fine and good, but like what country roads? Like, okay, let's retrace all your steps because if we're gonna, it's like Stephanie Condon again, where if we're gonna find this body, it's gonna be somewhere nearby,
right.
That's to me, that's one of the hardest
what
parts.
What country
about this.
roads? Like where? Yeah.
Where were
landmark or something.
Yeah.
And country roads, I mean, we're not sure we're a little rural community, but we're not like in the middle of nowhere. There are.
Yeah, we're in Portland. Yeah,
there are streets and it's
cameras,
not right. Yeah. It's I don't know. It's hard for me. We're country road. We're not like I don't know. There's pretty decent sized population where she was driving is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, there was other things too. I guess they asked her some of the things she bought when she was out. She went to 2 different Fred Meyers, which I thought interesting. Right? Did you not find what you wanted at the first Fred Meyer? So she went to a second one. They usually have the same stock.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that part was funny to me because and the only reason that's funny is
rewards. That's what she's trying to get.
Exactly.
Rewards,
get
membership.
Rewards.
Yeah.
Now, in July 2010, a local landscaper who Moulton previously hired showed up to the police station and told authorities that about 6 months prior to Horman's disappearance, Moulton Horman offered him money to kill her husband. The detectives shared the landscaper's account with Kane, the husband, and he left the house on June 26th with the couple's 19-month-old daughter and promptly hired a family law attorney and filed for divorce papers and restraining order against Moulton. Unfortunately, police have no other suspects, and there are little to no updates on the Kyron Horman case today. To this date, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Department is still actively seeking any and all leads in this case. Now, we do know that Terry Moulton was from Roseburg, Oregon, and she did move back after the divorce. I don't know who she is. I don't even know what she looks like. So apparently, I don't know if she's still here in Roseburg or not. I've heard things that she moved away. I do know that she had, because she was from Roseburg, she had people she knew here. And I'm not going to name any names, but someone was approached by the FBI because they were friends on Facebook. So all her friends on Facebook, anyone that lived in Roseburg, was approached and said, hey, what's your history with here, with Terry Moulton here? So there was thorough investigation done. That's a hard one too.
There was a $50,000 reward for information leading to the resolution to Kyron's disappearance. You can call 1-800-THE-LOST if you do have information.
Yes. The last thing he was wearing, was a black t-shirt with CSI in green letters, and it had a handprint on it. He also was wearing black cargo pants, white socks, black Skechers sneakers with orange trim, and he was wearing glasses when he went missing. I've seen the age progressed photos, and it's heavy because it's like that, just like a good nerdy kid that would have been,
right.
that's hard. But anyways, so Kyron Horman.
Being one of those where we don't find out for a long time or we never find out.
Let's do the scary question was, if it was her,
mm-hmm.
And she only, in the timeline it was, she buried the body. It wouldn't have been that deep because it takes a while to bury something, right? To dig a hole and that kind of stuff. So she went to a rural road and dug a hole. So I have a feeling it's one of those things that eventually the ground will shift enough and bone will pop out. I don't know. The other things I read too, that they talked to some of her friends, and one friend was really on her side, which was really cool, was that, that's not her at all. She wouldn't have done that. Released, I think, some text messages between the two of them. So that was where she kind of had some of that support. There's also rumor too that when she was in the parking lot before she left the school, that there was someone else in the truck with her as an unidentified person. But once again, we're going off of different information, hearsay and that kind of stuff. Sadly, your best eyewitnesses are first and second graders, right?
Right.
Even in 2000, though, I wonder why the school didn't have better, I don't know. School to me should be the number one place you should have like 800 cameras, right? It's like, I think you would want that. Especially how the world is now in America, for kids to go to school. So I don't know, that Kyron Horman one's odd. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really hope that they get some resolution out of that one.
I will add a little more to that. I guess in 2017, it was reported by Portland station KGW that a secret grand jury panel continued to hear evidence in Kyron's disappearance. They had convened on multiple occasions, and during the report, Kyron's case was described as still active ongoing.
Good.
2 months later, in July 2017, law enforcement conducted further searches along Skyline Boulevard, which I think was where the school was, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. But the searches yielded no results. In June 2018, Young...
That's the mom.
Okay.
Yeah. Posted
on the official Find Kyron Horman Facebook, still tuned, something big is coming, I promise you.
Oh, wow. I wonder what she found out then.
And that was 2018.
It's Terry Moulton.
So I haven't seen anything since then, so I don't know.
She was a bodybuilder. I thought, wasn't she like a professional bodybuilder or something like that? I just remember her being,
I'm not sure.
That being a thing.
Yeah, I hope they get some sort of closure. And
yeah. The school part's hard because... with there not being cameras, not being eyewitnesses, like if she's the last one to see him, I think it's the fact that she would go home and then post pictures of him on Facebook. Right. That leads me to decide that maybe she didn't do it. Like that'd be a weird thing to.
Man, that makes me think the other way.
Right?
You're making it look like you're innocent.
Yeah.
By
posting the pictures.
Posting pictures, right?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, look at me. I'm a good stepmom.
Exactly.
Yeah. To me, that makes you look more guilty.
More guilty. Yeah.
It's maybe that's just the way my mind goes. But
I like the gardener. Coming forward. Hey, yeah, she offered me to kill her husband. Is that something? And they're like, no, we're not gonna look into this.
Right.
Yeah, we're fine.
Right. There's quite a mix of interesting stories out there.
Yes.
That we'll continue to mix and match within our episodes. We do have some interviews lined up for you guys.
Yes.
Some good interviews. Mark and I have been working on trying to get folks their time, to come on with us and stuff. So appreciate, everyone still listening and enjoying just Mark and I talking about various subjects. So, but we do have interviews lined up. So don't you worry. It's not always going to be me and Mark blabbing on about stuff.
That's right. We have good interviews planned. I think everyone's got a story to tell. And so I think when you capture certain people who have great messages or do great things in the community.
Right. So we're going to transition to stuff a little more lighter, a little more, less, I don't know, stressful, whatever the words are. We got a little Oregon trivia.
Okay.
A little more Oregon trivia.
I love Oregon trivia.
Some of these are pretty obvious. Some of these are kind of interesting. Are we ready, sir?
We're ready.
Play the game show theme song. Just kidding. What city is known to be the first city to have one-way streets?
I thought it was Portland. Mm-mm. Was it Eugene?
Eugene,
yeah.
Yeah, Eugene.
It's a nightmare downtown.
Yeah. What is Oregon's official state nut?
It's the hazelnut or filbert.
It is the hazelnut. Oregon is the only state that has an official nut.
That makes sense for Oregon.
The hazelnut is also known as the filbert.
Yes. My really stay with the state nut, and I want to campaign for that. Like, can you be like an honorary state nut for a day? Like, but it'd be a person. Like, yeah, I'm Oregon state nut for the day.
Oregon is home to one of the world's shortest river. The D River is only 121 feet long.
Does it even be a river at that point? Isn't it just a stream? Come on.
The D River is a river in Lincoln City. It had its title until 1989 when Guinness Book of World Records came in and said, no. The Roe River in Montana is now the shortest.
I think there's a joke there somewhere about
No, don't do it. Don't do it. The world's tallest barbershop pole stands where? I love that we just have a random tallest barbershop.
Portland or Salem?
Forest Grove, Oregon.
Forest Grove. Okay. Yeah.
World's tallest barbershop. I should probably know how tall it is, but
My sister went to college there.
You can go find out for yourselves.
Tallest barbershop.
This one's easy. Body of water that borders Oregon on its west.
Oh, well, you mean like the ocean? Or,
Yeah.
Pacific Ocean?
Yeah, there you go. Mark.
I'm like,
the suspense is building here.
I'm thinking real hard.
On what date did Oregon become the 33rd state in the Union?
1859.
Good job.
But I don't remember the day, but yeah.
I'll give you a hint. It's a holiday. It's not an unofficial holiday, and it's not a federal holiday.
I give up.
February 14th.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day. I can't believe you knew 1859. That's
Oregon.
a good.
Made it official on Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
How romantic.
Mills End Park in Portland is the smallest park in the world. How many square inches is it?
It's small. I've driven by it. I didn't realize it was a park until after I drove by it. Isn't it like
it's 452 square inches.
I love it.
Mills Park in Portland. Well, we got some
That's funny.
odd things that were the
Oregon.
largest barber pole. That's kind of funny to me.
Should we go 2 questions, sir? Yes, we have 2 questions. First one I'll go with, do you have a favorite summertime drink?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you too, since we were blabbing about this before.
Yeah.
My first one is I just like a good iced tea.
Okay.
No sweetener, no sugar. I just like a good iced tea, something refreshing.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. And then my other favorite one, I just like a nice cold beer.
Okay.
You know, those are my 2 favorite. I'm not difficult.
My unofficial one is it's gonna sound real funny, but I allow 1 can Ruby Red Squirt. I don't like to drink soda hardly ever, but Ruby Red Squirt, the flavor, and I have a tradition where every summer I have 1 can. Can keeps it cooler.
Would you pick a day?
No, just some point during the summer, I always get a can of Ruby Red Squirt. That's my unofficial favorite.
That's a lot of pressure on you, though.
It is, but it's very whimsical. I can pick it whenever. But
do you spread out the can over a certain amount of days? You like take a sip, boom, in the fridge.
I chug it so fast it's embarrassing. Like the can shrinks as I say. But probably my favorite summertime drink is good old pink lemonade.
Yeah.
High in sugar, high in flavor.
Yeah.
None of the bite. Pink lemonade, and to me, it's not as. You don't see it as often, you know, there's regular lemonade, there's other flavored lemonades, but pink lemonade.
Do you go powder form mix, or do you go like out of like a bottle or like pre-mix?
It's wherever I can get my hands on. I found it on tap the other day of all places. I was like, pink lemonade on tap. Hello.
Was it have like one of those plastic dispensers? Like somebody already made it?
No. It was literally like at hey, you can get Coke, you can get, it was at a soda fountain.
Got it.
And just one of the options was pink lemonade. I'm like, how odd.
Do you go ice cold? Do you go a couple ice cubes?
A couple ice cubes. You don't want too much ice because then you're
water it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear
good old pink lemonade.
Yeah.
It's only a summer drink,
Nothing wrong with that.
You have that in November, you're weird.
Yeah. You're an odd duck.
Yeah.
Right. And then the hot debate in America. This should be be the number one most debated thing in America. When you're grilling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, ladies, gentlemen, whoever's grilling, kids, I guess if you're old enough at one point. Yeah, that's fine.
Grill.
Do you go propane or do you go the classic art form known as charcoal?
So here's the deal. I am propane only for the fact I got a free propane barbecue.
Yeah.
What about you?
Taste the meat, not the heat. Excuse me, I said that wrong. Taste the meat, not the heat. Okay. Sorry. I go charcoal, but I would be lying if I didn't say I also have a Traeger at home, which some folks that are hardcore barbecuers, they kind of like brush that off to the side a little bit because you're just like switching or flipping a switch and turning it. But you still have to be able to use good sauces. Got to know how to eat good rub.
You got to time it right.
Barbecuing is an art form.
It really is.
Okay. Now you always want to barbecue. You never want to barbecue to time. You always want to barbecue to temp. And it's always good to get yourself a good meat thermometer. Now the ones you plug in, that's fine. But I found myself ones that had like a little digital magnet I stick to the side of the Traeger and it plugs into them. And then I stick it in the meat. That way I can watch the internal temp go without having to raise the lid.
Nice.
Highly recommend that. Yeah.
We do a lot of vegetable kebabs. We do.
Ooh, that's good stuff.
What surprised me most, I could not believe how good it was when I barbecued it, and don't judge me, but it was amazing, was Beyond Burgers.
Okay.
I was surprised. They tasted so good.
Yeah.
It did not taste like, it didn't taste like a phony, thing, but yeah, Beyond Burger patties, you can buy them in any store.
Yeah.
Oh, flavored them just a little bit.
I've done black bean burgers.
Ooh, pretty good on the barbecue.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've gone that route before, so I don't have any, there's no judgment from me on that, but I just like a tri-tip. I just smoke a tri-tip,
There you
do
go.
a little reverse sear on that.
Best food I've ever had in my life has all been off a barbecue, hands down. Best burger was off a barbecue.
There's just no comparing between barbecue and just like a stovetop grill.
Oh, absolutely. My father-in-law, he does carne asada on a. They have a huge barbecue like thing. It's like it looks like the back of a pickup truck, but that thing, the carne asada that comes out of that thing.
My gosh.
Oh my god, it melts in your mouth.
Oh man.
Now I'm hungry.
Right, it's lunchtime.
All right, how are we gonna wrap this up?
We'll wrap it up with some dad jokes. So my wife bought me for Father's Day dad joke books, or a dad joke book. Excuse me while I sort through these here. Shout out to my grandma. That's the only way she can hear. Okay. What do you call ketchup with 20/20 vision? Hindsight.
Wow.
Oh boy. What do you call a guy with no nose?
I had no idea.
Nobody knows.
I walked into that one.
I was addicted to soap.
Then you got clean?
But I'm clean now.
Yeah, that's solid.
What do you get hanging from apple trees?
I don't know.
Sore arms. Yeah. What kind of music do chiropractors like?
Oh, baby got back.
Hip hop.
Oh, hip hop. Okay. Jeez.
My friend said to me, "What rhymes with orange?" I said, "No, it doesn't."
That's good.
All right, we'll find one more terrible one.
All right.
How do you organize a space party? You plan it.
Yes, you plan it. I love it. I thought we had that joke before.
I'm sure we did. Look, I'm skimming through this. Okay, I'm skimming.
It's a good joke. It's a good way. All right. Hey, if you want to reach out to us, if you feel that you got a story for the podcast, if you want to be a sponsor in our growing podcast community, we are at Organ Files Podcast at yahoo.com. Elliot, where else can they find us?
And if you have any questions, anything you want to add, reach us at that Yahoo email podcast, or reach us at that Yahoo email that Mark just mentioned. You can listen to us on everywhere you get your podcast. I'll list them all again. Apple Podcast, Google, Alexa, Stitcher, everywhere.
Yeah, YouTube,
Spotify.
YouTube.
Mark puts them on YouTube. You can follow us on Instagram. You can just look for Oregon Files Podcast on Instagram. I put the episodes out there, and you can just find us anywhere you get your podcast. And I hope everyone just continuing to like our show. We try
Thank you.
We try to put out the best material we can, and we will continue to put out episodes, and we appreciate everyone listening and stuff. So
if you have suggestions for 2 questions, please send them in. We do understand we are dangerously close to becoming the Oregon Food Podcast instead of the Oregon Files Podcast, because
Food and Drink Podcast.
Food and Drink, yeah, exactly. No, thank you and have a great day.
Thanks. Cheers.